In any event, I'll be leading our sit today, and I want to, especially in this week of Parshat Lech Lecha, we're in week 3 of our annual Torah reading cycle. There is a particularly disturbing passage in which Abram, our ancestor, our forefather, asks his wife Sarai, our foremother, to lie about their relationship in order to protect himself. Asks her to present herself as Abram's sister rather than his wife, without going into the details about that, although I'm happy to share some by email if you would like. It raises the question about truth, about emet in Hebrew. Um, the word emet, by the way, begins with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It ends with the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the middle letter, mem, is the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it kind of encompasses the whole gamut of the alphabet, emet, the word emet, truth. And really, in a time of, wow, where the whole matter of truth over the last X number of years has just become so difficult, so challenging, where everything is presented as truth, and accusations of fake truth or fake news or alternative truths, um, which make life in society so conducive to manipulation. I want to lift up this Mira, this spiritual quality of emet for us today, because it really is core to this practice, what we call this practice, which is Jewish mindfulness meditation, which in traditional terms is really just falling up and bringing our attention to a particular quality that is instilled within us, that it's innate within us, that each of us, and this is really maybe a radical thing to say these days, the idea that each of us is equipped with a truth meter, a truth GPS. We have the ability to discern the truth. And our practice is really a practice of exercising that muscle to say, what is true right now? And our measure of what is true is not what is being told to us externally. It is our own experience, our own lived experience. We test whatever we take in from our senses against our sense of what is true from within. Um, and that sense, I think, has for many people been dulled over these years, where we have a sense that we can't trust that anymore. We don't know if we can trust it, or we don't even know if we have it. Everything seems to go. So our practice each day when we gather here is really a practice of discerning our own experience, not what we should be thinking, not what we should be feeling, not how we should be, but how we actually are. What is true in our experience? How do we truly feel? What are we truly thinking? What is our true state of being? And our tradition says that emet is one of the fundamental, one of the foundations of existence. The world, it's the word emet is described in rabbinic tradition as God's seal, and it's one of the pillars of life. Emet. We stand for truth, which is not to say that in Jewish tradition there have been times when it has been advisable to bend or fudge the truth in service of other values, for example, of shalom. That is also within Jewish tradition, that it's at times maybe permissible to bend the truth or present things in a way that promotes shalom. That's also a value. But essentially, truth is an overriding principle. What is true? What is real? Based on our own experience, our own perception. Going to crib from my colleague, Rabbi Jordan Ben-Appel, who in teaching Jewish mindfulness holds up emet as one of the basic principles, and also holds up another Jewish value, chesed, and says that basically Jewish mindfulness meditation, you don't have to be an expert, you don't have to be someone who's meditated for a long time. It's really trying to practice a commitment to emet, to truth, with chesed, with loving kindness, with compassion. The two are essential and they're linked together. Truth, emet, and chesed. Chesed ve'emet. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sit with those two qualities today. And it may be helpful for us to begin with chesed. And if you're like me, one of the ways I can do that for myself is just by putting a hand on my heart space. So I want to invite you to do the same. And you can leave it there as long as it feels comfortable. You can let it go when you want to. And just notice right away if there's any change in your body or your being from feeling the support of your hand over your heart. And understand that heart, that hand as offering chesed, particularly if it's your right hand, which not to disfavor lefties, but the right hand represents the quality of chesed in Jewish mystical tradition. So we're offering ourselves kindness. Just start with that. And we can acknowledge these are really difficult circumstances, we're in. So if you're comfortable letting your eyes close, as I will, you're invited to do that. Let your eyelids just close. If that's not something that's available to you, you can just bring your awareness and intention inward, away from the screen, away from externalities. We're going to check in with our truth GPS or truth meter. Other manifestations of chesed, other besides our hand on our heart space. You can feel the seat, chair, and its support also as a representation of chesed. Being held, being supported, kindness of the seat. And receive a few deep breaths. Also, wow, what a gift to be able to breathe and just be alive, just to remember that we're alive right now. There's a kindness in that as well. And also see if you can tap into the chesed of this group. 210 human beings taking time out of their day to be together. See if you can feel yourself supporting the rest of the group, and see if you can experience the rest of the group supporting you right now, holding you right now in the container of this practice. So there is a lot of chesed at this moment. The self chesed, self-compassion, kindness towards self, the support of the breath, which can steady us, the support of the seat that can steady us, the steadiness of the floor, which can hold us, and the really enormous kindness and love and compassion in this group. Think of all the goodwill, all the support, all the good intention of this group. So in this container of chesed, each of us can begin to discern what is true for us. What's true in your body right now? And again, with chesed, not with judgment, not what's wrong with your body, just scanning your body with a lot of kindness, a lot of love, a lot of appreciation, grateful to be in this body. If there are any aches or pains or challenges, offer that chesed, offer some kindness, some compassion to yourself for that ache, that pain, that stress, that tension, as you might comfort a child, holding all of it with a lot of tenderness. We want to do the same with our emotions, our feelings. We don't want to be feeling what we think we should be feeling. We want to be feeling what we actually are feeling right now. Might be feeling a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of fear, or might not be. Might think, oh, I'm supposed to be anxious right now, and I don't feel that anxious right now. And that's fine. What do you really feel? Maybe you're feeling pretty happy and pretty light today. Maybe you're feeling excited. Maybe you're feeling joyful. Maybe you're feeling grateful. Maybe you're feeling guilty. Maybe you're feeling ashamed. Maybe you're feeling grief. I want to welcome all the feelings. Know if there's no right answer. And we want to hold each of them with chesed. And we want to do the same with our state of mind, with all the thoughts that bubble up from the fountain of the mind as they come up, inventing scenarios, trying to predict outcomes, trying to strategize for what we will do and based on different outcomes, trying to tell the future, or ruminating about the past. And we want to notice that inclination to go to the past or the future with chesed, with compassion, and gently bring us back to this moment and to not knowing, and to be okay to hold not knowing with chesed. That's the truth. We don't know. And then finally, and then we'll move into just some silent practice together for the next 10 minutes. In addition to checking into our body, our emotions, our mind, our thoughts, we want to attend to our neshama, to our souls. We want to remember our souls. The Hebrew phrase for paying attention is lasim lev, to give heart, to place heart. Simu lev, pay attention. Simu lev la neshama, to the soul. That's a soul that is untouched by whatever happens. That is a soul that, as the morning liturgy reminds us, is pure, tahor, tahora, untouched. So we want to tap into that as well with compassion, with chesed, with love, with kindness. So let's sit for about 10 minutes in silence. If the mind wanders off, as always, bring it back to your anchor that you choose, whether it's sensation in the chair, or come back to the breath rising and falling, or back to noticing sound or sensation. And I'll invite us back at the end of 10 minutes. So let's just sit together and devote ourselves to bring our attention to truth by practicing chesed, loving kindness. If the mind is wandering off for any reason, just bring it back to the question of Emet. What is true for you right now? True in your body, true in your emotions, true in your mind. What's true about your soul? Can you hold that truth with chesed? The last minute of our practice together, let's continue to feel the chesed and support of this group holding us, support of your chair, support of the breath, support of divine presence resting on us together. And let's pray together that we be able to exercise our sacred capacity to discern truth and to bear witness to truth, to testify to what is true, to stand for truth, to represent truth in a world that may be seeking to undermine what is real and what is true. And may we recognize our capacity also to be with what is true by holding it with chesed, holding it with loving kindness, being directed by chesed always. And if your eyes have been closed until now, inviting you to gently open them. Let's come together as a group. Take one more final deep breath in and out. Thank each other for being here. Thank you for being here. And one last piece of our practice, which is to hold space for those of us who have endured loss, or observing a yard site, or for whom it's the custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish. If you're not in mourning or observing a yard site, or if it's not your custom to join in Kaddish, I hope you can stay present for those who are and offer your chesed for them to hold their truth. And thanks, Natalie, for sharing the words of the mourner's Kaddish on the screen. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And if you're reciting it, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. And you can unmute at this time. Yitkadal,
Yitkadal
Dash,
v'yitkadash
Rabba,
Shemi Rabba
Amen.
Amar Tivach V'Yam Lichmachute
Chayefon,
Ayachon
Yomefon,
Yom
Chaye to all
Kol
Beit Yisrael,
Kol Bet Yisrael
Ba'agalah,
Ba'agalah
B'zman Karib,
Kol Bet
B'Yemru,
Yisrael
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Shemi Rabba
May
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba
Mevarach,
Mevarach
Lavo
Le'ala
Meo
Almei
Maya
Almaya,
Almei Almaya
Bayach
Yivarach,
Yitbarach
Yishtabach,
Yitbarach
Yitbar, Ramam,
Yitadar
B'Yitnaser,
Yitadar
Yitadar, V'Yitaleb, Yithalal,
Yitadar
V'Yidkushat Rifu.
Yichlu
Ila Mikol, Birchata, V'Shirata, B'Chalta,
Hamachar
V'Nechata,
Randa
Ran, Ba'alma,
Amen.
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 Yehi Shalom.
Aleinu El Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen. Kol
Amen.
Amen. Rama Ya'aseh Shalom Al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei V'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Friend, thanks so much for joining us today. A couple of reminders. If you have not voted, I really hope you will use your civic exercise, your civic duty and your sacred power to vote, and remind everybody who is able to vote to please exercise it. Just a reminder about tonight, and just in case, I'm gonna put the link that I have also, which may or may not be the one that which is to register for. Let's see, this is it. I think that's not what I want. Natalie, if you can get the link for people to register for tonight so they get the Zoom, that'd be great. And or you can just use that Zoom link that Natalie shared earlier. Thanks, Natalie, for holding our space. I'm happy to stay on, and happy to engage in conversation through the chat if you'd like to share your reflections on your experience, or just however you're doing in the chat, or if you have a question. Very lightly touched on why I chose Emet as our theme for our practice today, but happy to elaborate on that as well for a few minutes after. And if you're leaving us now, a reminder to join us either tonight at 8 p.m., half an hour sitting, Wednesday night, half an hour sitting at 8 p.m. Tomorrow, Josh Fagelson will lead our sit, a regular time. Wednesday, Rabbi Raphael Silverstein will join us from Israel. Zach Newman will lead us on Thursday from the United Kingdom, and Yael Shai will lead us on Friday to sit into Shabbat together. So we have a beautiful lineup of teachers for this week. Hope you'll join us. Um, and I will take a look and just see if there's any questions or comments. Feel free to put a question in and just write questions all in caps. Thanks so much, Natalie. The first link is the invitation link to register for the Zoom tonight. Thanks, Pam. I'm wondering how a soul stay pure in this world. Can the soul be considered to be separate from ego or missing the mark? Thank you, Pam. So, yeah, good question. Pam's asking, I mentioned while we were sitting that the neshama, our soul, is, according to Jewish tradition, tahora, pure. And it's traditional in the morning to recite the line Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi. When we wake up to a new day of life, to acknowledge our Creator for our neshama, which is implanted within us and which is pure. And Pam is raising the question, how can a soul stay pure in this world? And I think the way I'll just share how I relate to that question is that I too am also often in the mindset that that the soul gets soiled or marred in some way by virtue of being in this this highly imperfect world, and by a person who acts imperfectly, and that it impacts the soul. But I like to believe, and I think Jewish tradition holds out, that there is an aspect of the soul which lies beyond all that, and is connected to something infinite, infinite in time and space, and therefore literally unimaginable to the human mind. We can't imagine, we can't really grasp something that is beyond time and space, since we are beings of time and space. And yet there's an element, and this is, I think, derives from the Jewish teaching in the Torah, that every human being is created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of the divine, and carries some spark of the divine within us that can't be touched by what happens in this world. I find that comforting and supportive, and especially at a time like this, to remember that when we're so rightly caught up in the drama of political developments and what's going to happen, and what's going to happen to our world, and what's going to happen to our country, and what's going to happen in Israel, and what's going to happen to our people, all of which are rightfully areas of really deep concern, to be able to have a piece of ourselves that is able to take in a longer perspective, that understands that things are unfolding, and we don't really know ultimately how things will unfold. And the not knowing is difficult, which I think is why I wound up at the end of our sit with that awareness of sitting with uncertainty. That uncertainty, there's a truth of uncertainty. Right now, we certainly know that we don't know. Everyone's, people can be very obsessed, myself included, with polls and looking for information that assures me about outcomes, and we just don't know. And even if we know, we don't really know what the final outcome is or how things will unfold. And there's that part of me that I need to honor, which is the part of me that lives in this world, that wants that is engaged in this world. And we all should be engaged in the world. We all should be worried. We all should be concerned. We all should be doing something about that. And to have a part of ourselves that can rest in not knowing. And I think it occurred to me that another quality that is very much at stake here, involved here, is bitachon, trust. To be able to trust when we don't know. And it's really hard, I think, for us to do that these days. Very hard for us to trust, very hard for me to trust. And yet I think we each have the capacity to trust. And we all have known leaders too, who have led us. And by that, I mean here in America, American leaders, and in our Jewish history, Jewish leaders, and in world history, world leaders who, in the midst of, of the storm, have been able to have a clearer and larger vision about how things will unfold, which have made them uniquely suited to lead at times like that. Think of Lincoln, think about Moshe, and Churchill and Roosevelt, and to name a few. Okay, gonna take a look at questions here. Okay, a bunch of questions. Simu Lev. I love the transliteration. I find when I go for a walk and be in nature really helps how my soul feels. Can I speak to that? As one who wishes he did that more often, I can say the same thing. I don't know. I don't, I can only, again, I'll speak for myself. Be curious for people to share in the chat about that. And I'll reference Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who said, that's a spiritual practice everyone should do every day. Should go out to the field, go out to nature. It's an essential thing to do. I think for me, it does have that sense of tapping into something that is larger than myself. That's what's calming. This tree, this grass, the seasons changing. Oh, right. Seasons have been changing for a long time. This tree's been around a long time. Looking up in the sky and just, I think that's yira, that's awe that nature can inspire. I should get a dog. Yeah, you and my kids sometimes feel the same way, but let's see. I'm not going to get into the political question here, Rona. I'm sorry. What do they mean? Let's see. How can we take a break from the punditry and news cycle? My mental health is suffering. Well, you're here, so you are taking a break from punditry and news cycle. That's what we need to do. We need to take a break. Music as well. And thanks for these good suggestions, everyone. Unhooking from the news, taking a news break. Thanks, Nancy. Not sure if I understand the question, Nancy. You wrote, as you were suggesting possible emotions that might be the truth of our experience, I felt something I'd not been feeling, or at least aware of feeling before its suggestion. Is this a shift in the truth of the moment, influenced by what I heard? Or perhaps the grief I felt was the truth I had not been recognizing. Oh, okay. Now I get it. It makes me wonder about discernment. Okay, I think that's a really interesting question. Is it the power of suggestion? Like when I said joy or sadness or anxiety, did that make you or me feel that way? Or did it help me discern that feeling was there? I just hadn't noticed it. I go with the latter, I think, generally, although there is the power of suggestion. That's a very interesting question. People can weigh on that too. I could have just invited everyone to notice and check in with your emotions without naming any of them and left that totally blank so that people could fill that in. I would say that I mentioned each of them, including ones that seemed unlikely or ones that I'm not feeling myself right at the moment, because it might help me notice, actually, I think I'm just anxious right now, but actually there's joy too. Actually, there's gratitude too. Actually, there's guilt also. Actually, there's grief as well. That's there. I don't think I'm feeling that way because I'm suggesting that to myself, but I think it's helping me notice something that I would not have noticed. And I think in this sense, one of my favorite Jewish narratives for mindfulness is well, there are two classic ones, at least two in the Torah. One where Jacob goes to sleep and has the dream of the angels going up and down the ladder, and he wakes up and says, "God was in this place, and I didn't know it," which is kind of this awareness, sudden awareness of waking up. And the other is Moses at the burning bush, turning aside to notice something and looking at it long enough to notice something that he would not otherwise have noticed. And our capacity to do that, to kind of move through the layers of the onion to get at what is deeper levels of truth, knowing that we cannot get to the absolute truth. One of the things I didn't include in today's suggestions was this passage from the Kotzker Rebbe. Maybe I can put this in the chat. Let's see, here it is. This is actually from Abraham Joshua Heschel. I'm going to put the quote in the chat about truth. And this is Abraham Joshua Heschel in his book called A Passion for Truth, which is based on the life of the Kotzker Rebbe, Hasidic, one of the Hasidic teachers, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Morgenstern of Kotzk, who lived in the 19th century, who held up emet, truth, as the foundation of spiritual life, basically. And it's based on a midrash, a rabbinic midrash, where the angels are arguing about whether God should create humankind or not. And one of the angels, who represents Chesed, says, yes, human beings should be created because they're going to perform acts of Chesed in the world. And what the angel who's arguing against humankind being created says, no, people are going to be such liars. That angel who represents emet, truth, says, no, they should never be created because they're going to be false. They're going to be liars. And so God responds to that argument by throwing emet into the ground. And Heschel says that parable is central to what the Kotzker is saying, that truth is buried in the ground, but is alive. It wants to emerge, but we resist its appearance. We're resistant to the truth. And what I like about that is sort of makes this practice of discerning truth into a little bit of a spiritual archaeological dig. We are digging down to get to the truth, even though it's going to be so many layers down. The truth is going to be so many layers down. We can't get to it, but we can keep peeling away layers, and we experience revelation in that way. Something is revealed to us that we may not have noticed. And that's a spiritual practice. That kind of insight to see something that we didn't see before. So we're at time. I want to thank you all for sharing the journey, as always. Invite everyone to join us either tonight at 8 o'clock with Josh Eggleston, or tomorrow, join Josh at our usual time at 12:30. And many blessings to everyone. Many thanks to you, Natalie, for holding our space so ably, as always, and all of you for being here. And